Hey all, Dr. Jared here, ready to kick off part 2 of our Detox Masterclass. Something that I wanted to start with is just a conversation that I've had 15 times since the last class started, and that is just how toxicity can affect allergies. So, it's the end of March right now. There are lots of people that are sniffling, that are full of sinus congestion, and specifically, from my observation with adult onset allergies, there are certain things when you detox that can really lower the allergen response. So, like, I had a new client yesterday who actually told me she doesn't have that bad of allergies. She just takes an inhaler every day and then rotates between 2 different other allergy meds. And frankly, I was floored because it's like, if you think having to take 3 drugs to not have allergy symptoms isn't a big deal, it's a big deal. Now, why do I bring that up with detoxing? Aren't allergens just what you breathe in? But the simplest analogy I can share with you is what they call the drop in a bucket analogy. So if you think about if there was a hole in the roof and there was just a drip coming through, you might place a bucket or something under the drip to catch it until you could repair the dripper until it stopped raining. Now, that each time it stopped raining and you could empty the bucket, you wouldn't really notice all that much symptoms. And that would be an analogy for, let's say, an allergy season. Now, if the bucket gets full and starts to overflow, that's when you really have a mess. And so, by detoxing your body, really what it does is it starts to convert allergens into inflammatory responses, which is also what toxins do. So if you already have a high toxin load from, hand sanitizer, from chemicals in food, from whatever it might be over time, you can very easily express more allergy symptoms because your body's already over inflamed. So by doing some form of detox, but the simplest would be that detox system that we recommend, the 2-part system. For many people, just doing that, let's say spring and fall leading into allergy season, will really radically lower their allergy symptoms. And so that's not taking a steroid, which is terrible for you and shoves it all back in. That's not, taking an inhaler to make you feel better. It's literally getting your body to heal itself. And so not only aren't there side effects, essentially, there's a bunch of other net benefits that you might not even know about. So my first question to you is, as you're starting the second class, is what is your action step? Are you drinking more water? Are you going to do a detox? Are you going to eat cleaner? Are you making an appointment with the integrative clinic to, to have our nurse practitioner Lander potentially help you reduce your medication and your toxic load? Are you looking at IV infusions? Are you getting more adjustments? Are you exercise? Like, what are you going to do? Now, today we're going to cover some higher level detox solutions, as well as covering certain foods or foods to avoid, as well as certain exercise protocols. So we completed this last seminar with some of the main toxins in food. So there's MSG and many other chemicals that can make you addicted feeling to processed foods. There's aspartame or aspartame. There's artificial sweeteners that are just absolutely horrible for your system. Known neurotoxins, meaning that they can, in some of these, they can cross your blood-brain barrier and actually damage your brain. There are, nitrates that can affect your heart. There's food colorings. There's, these highly processed oils like soybean oil and margarine, just absolutely toxic and terrible. And then, as I mentioned last time, the genetic modification being that over 90% of these processed things are, the grains are now genetically modified versus 10%, roughly 30 years ago. Now, buying organic, simple solution, might not feel simple price-wise, but simple solution, buy as organic as possible. Now, if you are on a budget, there is the best thing to do is to buy organic meat first, because it holds about 10 times as much toxicity as as produce, followed by dairy, which is, again, similar, much higher toxic load, followed by everything else. But especially you want to look at, and I'm going to make this big, but the dirty dozen. So dirty dozen, these are currently the things that hold the most pesticides, fungicides, whatever these residues for things that are sprayed on them. Now, if you don't have the opportunity to screenshot this, you can Google the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. But if you're going to be simplistic, if you eat the skin of the fruit or vegetable, odds are you should buy that organic first. So like an orange, you don't eat the skin, or a banana, versus like a pear or an apple, you eat the skin. So that's going to have the residues right on it, and then you consume it. So that's something, if you're getting into this, one of the things we talk about, whether it's why you need to take a multivitamin, like if you're only going to take one thing, you should be taking a whole food multivitamin, in my opinion. So most of you probably do that already. And whole food mean that it's extracted from, fruits, vegetables, whatever it might be, but a whole food multivitamin, because soil is depleted. There used to be like, my family grew up, we had farming in the family. I know many of you do as well. But you think about it, if the price of corn's highest and you don't rotate crops, eventually you deplete the soil of the main things that the corn pulls out of it. And while putting, NPK back on there might replace some of it, it doesn't fully replace the organic compounds in there. Additionally, fungicide kills off a lot of what makes soil alive and a lot of what can help regenerate it and grow it. And so spraying the traditional chemicals can cause a huge damage. It's also actually linked to a lot of the allergy symptoms people feel, especially in the fall. So there are certain farms or organic farms that work on regenerative farming, and they're shown to have a lot more minerals and even in some cases more vitamins in the exact same, let's say, piece of spinach. One example that's not exactly produce, but free range salmon or wild caught salmon versus farm raised salmon. There was a study done that showed that wild caught salmon, meaning that they live in the ocean or wherever they're caught, can have as much as twice as many omega-3s and as much as 4 times more vitamin D versus farm raised, small cages in the same ocean, but fed a different diet, not fed its natural diet. So you might order salmon at the restaurant, but wild caught salmon can be dramatically better for you. Additionally, since we're on the topic of fish, eating small fish when possible, and then again, wild caught fish can help with bioaccumulation of toxicity. It's also why in some cases you don't want to eat huge amounts of meat. I'm personally an advocate of eating meat as part of the diet, unless you're incredibly knowledgeable on what nutrients come from where. But bigger animals do hold more toxicity, more heavy metals, more of certain things. Again, going back to why I think it's so important that you detox. So if you haven't detoxed before, our detox system is the most basic, and it's the one we recommend 3 months in a row, and then 1 to 2 per year. If you have any bloating, any gas with eating, acid reflux, we also recommend 3 to 4 months of Max GI as a gut cleanse. We do have a heavy metal bind if you've taken, let's say, a ton of flu shots, or maybe you have a ton of amalgams in your mouth, or you are heavily vaccinated, or whatever it might be that causes you, or you had a test. Our integrative clinic again can test you to see what your heavy metal load is. One of the I'll leave them anonymous, but one of the local aerospace manufacturers in town here, we once tested a guy that had worked in the basement of the manufacturing plant for over 40 years, and he had 10 times the acceptable amount of lead in his system. So again, that could have caused Alzheimer's. It could have caused all sorts of stuff. We know that we avoid lead paint from China, but yet certain people working in a factory may be severely exposed to lead or aluminum with a bunch of different things. There's a variety of things, and the other thing is not necessarily what you've been exposed to, it's what your body's unable to process. So if you maybe genetically don't process heavy metals as well, this can lead to things like eczema. It can lead to all sorts of damage, including, like I said, brain issues. long term, which is one of the reasons why I personally am not an advocate for flu shots, as well as many other things. But again, what are you taking? So we do carry a heavy metal bind. So, but this I would only recommend if you know you have heavy metal toxicity. Otherwise, I'd recommend making an appointment with the integrative clinic and having your blood tested for heavy metals, going through that metabolics protocol, and then getting the right thing recommended for you. And I'm going to pull this big thing up here where it says, look for a supplement. So like on this thing, it says, vitamin A from beta carotene, and it goes in and goes right down the list. But where are these extracted from? And if you can find out from a company, if you use something besides a Max Living product, you can request information from the company where they get it from. But really, you want these to be extracted from whole foods as much as possible. Additionally, if you're taking anything like any certain herbs like ashwagandha, or if you're taking curcumin or turmeric, or these different things, knowing that they were low heat processed, that they were manufactured appropriately, can make a big difference in what you absorb. So it's not what you consume, it's what you absorb. And as I've stated before, research shows 90+% of supplements you really probably don't want to put in your body. So many of you watching this are still trying to save money, and you're better off buying less supplements and buying the right ones than buying a bunch of supplements that just flat out are harmful or don't work. One of the things to avoid additionally, artificial flavors. So if it says, strawberry flavor, like a lot of people look at Gatorade and think Gatorade's healthy. Like Gatorade, it doesn't have as much sugar as pop, and it does have a little bit of electrolytes, but coconut water has 4 times as many electrolytes as Gatorade. It doesn't have near the amount of artificial colors and flavorings. It has way less sugar. These things do accumulate and cause a lot of damage in your body. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with supplementation is really just the Max Living. They call it the brand promise, but there's some things that are, they're certified, so they pay extra. So good manufacturing or GMP certified, FDA registered, meaning they, as you may know, supplements don't have to be shown to the Food and Drug Administration. Now, you may have a different opinion on what the Food and Drug Administration allows or who's allowed to bribe them to begin with, but it is FDA registered and NSF certified. There's no artificial sweeteners ever. We even try to use low levels of the natural sweeteners like stevias and things like that. Fully GMO free, fully gluten free, and they do pay extra to make sure they're both pure and the strength of the supplement is tested for potency. So again, if you see this is metal bind. This is something that you can take, and I would only recommend, again, if you are somebody who knows you have heavy metal toxicity, but this is a gentle binder. Couple things related to toxicity from a mental side of things. I mean, stress is hard on your mind. Avoiding toxic thoughts, meditating. There's a author I follow quite a bit right now that talks about they're smaller research studies, but they've shown that either 30 to 60 minutes of either meditation or quiet time, or just thinking and planning, it leads to more happiness than just about anything else. Now, again, I may feel the same as you, that how am I going to find an extra 60 minutes or 30 minutes? But even if you find 10 minutes to just sit quietly and let your brain sort, that is linked to much lower levels of stress and toxicity. Now, we're not going to spend a ton of time on exercise because I think most people know, what exercise does for their system, on top of being great for your metabolism and your immune system and your looks and all this other stuff. Sweat does help you naturally detox. It also helps you naturally balance your blood sugar. There's just so many good things when you get a good sweat, but it does detox in a healthy way. It even can help you with moving it through your bowels and your system. So remember that exercise is a 5 essential thing for a reason. Now, similar to exercise, we're not going to spend a ton on function, but I'll tell you, one of the things that I find most amazing with lots of kids is how constipated they are. When they come in, their parents will mention that they're constipated or they're chronically constipated or they have to give them Miralax to go to the bathroom. The same is likely true for adults, but it seems like adults are less likely to talk about it. But your bowels, when you don't move your bowels at least once, but ideally multiple times a day, you can reabsorb the toxicity from what you eat back through your system. It is very important to be moving your bowels at least once a day. And, from a function perspective, this is one of the things that we see more frequently when somebody starts to get adjusted. Getting adjusted helps your body function at a higher level. Please remember, only 10% of your nerves feel pain. And so if only 10% of your nerves feel pain, 90% goes back to function, the function of your body and what it's doing and how it works and how it regulates. So you are more efficient at detoxing when you're well adjusted in most cases. On top of that, from a function perspective, if you deal, for instance, with, let's say, low back pain or a pinched nerve or something in the lower part of your back, it could decrease your body's efficiency in motility. Go back to, if you don't want to think about this from a chiropractic perspective, one of the top reasons people end up having back surgery is that the blown disc or the arthritis in their back starts to reduce the function and control of their bowels and bladder. Now, if you don't think pinching a nerve can control that, how could it possibly happen any other way? Your brain tells your organs to either eliminate or not eliminate, to move or not move, to hold it in, whatever it might be. But holding toxicity is a big deal. And a lot of people do it without even meaning to. I can't tell you how many kids have adjusted and they've had to run to the bathroom to move everything through because we finally released this pinched nerve or inflamed nerve. One of my favorite chiropractic authors, says, when people talk about why would you continue to go, he said, well, if chiropractic helped get you well, why wouldn't you use it to help keep you well? It's just like saying if exercise helped get you well, why wouldn't you use it to help keep you well? If eating healthy helped get you well, why wouldn't you use it to help maintain your wellness? If getting 8 hours of sleep helped get you well, why wouldn't you use it to keep you well? I mean, you can go right down the line, but there is a harsh reality that shifting back into I'm going to say pharmaceutical or medical concept of only treating you when you feel it or saying, I can tell when I need to be adjusted is absolutely, I want to say it's absolutely crazy. It's not crazy. I get the thought, but it's not a very good concept to work through. Your nerve system controls absolutely every function in your body. So let's go ahead and talk action steps, which is the second keyword, by the way. So action steps. So from an action step standpoint, there are a lot of people that have chronic illness due to toxicity. I just read an interesting study from the UK that said for heavy alcohol drinkers, that was 14 out of 20. They did a 20-person study with heavy alcohol drinkers that had high blood pressure. If they reduced to 1 drink or less per day, 70% of them, or 14 people, completely eliminated their blood pressure issue. Think about that. Quitting drinking for these people that had high blood pressure, they didn't change their diet, they didn't change their exercise, and is that from inflammation? Is that from liver damage? I have no idea. But again, eliminating toxicity affects so many other aspects of your health. It can affect your blood pressure. It can affect cancer. It can affect pain. It can affect mood. It can affect autoimmune conditions, bowel movements, all sorts of stuff. So again, detoxing your system. So if you have any type of a chronic illness, diabetes, high blood pressure, whatever, we can go right down the line. If you're holding too much weight and you're toxic, if you have bad habits, if you need support, if you need help with this, one of the best ways to do this is, first of all, a low-cost way is to just tell your chiropractor, tell them to keep you accountable. You're going to drink more water. You're going to do this. You're going to do that, whatever it might be. We would be happy to help keep you accountable. We're not always going to push you unless you want to be pushed. we are happy to help keep you accountable. But the second one is to be tested, to actually get a customized program through the integrative clinic. So a metabolics assessment, you can do the LRQ like I talked about in the first class, the life risk questionnaire, and you really can take charge of your health. So if you know you have a condition that you need to look at from a toxicity level, we have a test. We actually have a stool test and a test. My favorite one is called a NutriVal, where it looks at the bacteria in your gut, the heavy metal toxicity, genetic markers, vitamin and mineral totals. I mean, so many different things that could radically improve or radically help you with your overall health. And this isn't just for the most toxic and sick people. I mean, athletes should be doing this. If you're a high school or college athlete and you want a competitive edge, getting your body to function at this. I mean, you look at the guys that are playing sports in their 40s, they're doing different stuff. I mean, they're spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. I look back at Tom Brady. I mean, if you really dive into what he does, he gets all these tests done. He eats very strict. He has a customized supplementation protocol. LeBron James, a few years back, claimed $1.5 million on his tax return for holistic wellness things, his supplements, his chiropractor, his athletic trainers. I mean, these guys invest big money. Obviously, they make bigger money than most of us do. But this can give you a competitive advantage for healthy people. There's a reason I personally get tested about once a year and do customized programs. It's to build health, not always to reverse disease or to attempt to reverse disease, but both are advantageous. So upcoming opportunities. At this point, you have the opportunity to make an appointment or follow up with the integrative clinic. You can drink more water. We went through this whole list, but the one thing that I would strongly encourage you to do is decide right now, what action step do you know you need to take to get to the next level of improvement? What action step are you going to take, and take it within the next 24 hours? Have a very blessed day.